He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
All right, welcome to the Alex Marlow Show. I have to say, one of my absolute favorite things to do is to break down the big speeches that are given by any world leader or party leader, things like that, because you get a good sense of where people really are at, what they're really thinking about. So today will be a day dedicated to the State of the Union. We don't call it the State of the Union because it was thought of previously that this first address to a joint session of Congress that would occur in late February or early March was the new president, if the president had just been sworn in, didn't have enough time to actually assess the State of the Union. This is pretty arcane, pretty archaic, because it was sort of invented at a time where people had to take a horse-drawn carriage to Washington, and they might not live close by, so it could take weeks on end for them to get there. But that's not what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with the guy who already was president, who has Trump Force One, and then now Air Force One, and was very efficient during the transition, getting it so that much of his agenda has already been in place, and we're less than 50 days in. So it's State of the Union. You can call it something else, but that's what it was. Trump given his State of the Union, and this is a very painful night for Democrats, and it's a great night for us because we basically have the entire floor. There's almost nothing they can do. This doesn't stop them from trying to do something, and that's where the story begins for the night, which is that the Democrats is losing their cool even ahead of the speech. And you can see this with Congressman Al Green, who the person who wants to impeach Trump just for breathing the air and walking upon the earth. Here he is making a fool of himself.
Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
It's very poetic, a aging, very upset Democrat with nothing to do other than to wave his cane, his literal cane, at Donald Trump and a grinning J.D. Vance. So this was the behavior that went on, and the Democrats are continually taking the approach that what they're going to do is not attempt to be reasonable, not attempt to work with Trump, not attempt to acknowledge when he does something good, something they could have done, something that most Americans agree on and like. No, they're just going to oppose him all the time, no matter what, because he's the bad orange man. It really was a environment that just suits Trump so well. His performance art was so good at the top of his powers. And there was a moment in the speech where I thought there's no way he could live up to his prior State of the Unions. If you missed the State of the Union where he gave Rush Limbaugh the Presidential Medal of Freedom, I mean, the stagecraft he's able to pull off, aside from setting his own presidential agenda, is not comparable. Joe Biden was okay at these things. Obama was okay at these things. And it's the night of the year on the calendar where the party in power has the greatest advantage. But Trump is taking it to another level because of his TV presence. This is the biggest ratings he'll ever get, is in shows like this. The theme of the night was the renewal of the American dream. Trump closed by saying he's going to fight for our country. One thing that was really interesting in the speech for me was how aggressive the speech was at Democrats. He mentioned that no matter what the Democrats do, then he is not going to be able to satisfy them. And he laid that out very early on, and I think this is a really big point. This is a point. I'm going to jump around with the clips because I can't play it totally straight. It's 90 minutes, so if we just played the clips, I'm not going to play the whole speech for you. So I'm going to jump around with clips, but this is a very crucial moment. Check this out.
This is my fifth such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history, or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements.
So one of these things are, if you're watching on the screen, I've paused it on where the Democrats are holding up these paddles. They say, save Medicaid, Trump's not coming after Medicaid. Musk steals. It's so pathetic that all they have are these paddles. And he's correct to note, none of them stand at all. They didn't stand at all the whole night. So typically the way these things are done is, probably most of you in the audience know, but maybe there's kids in the car who haven't heard this. The other side, the opposition party, does tend to stand and applaud for things that are mutually agreeable. Things like when a terrorist dies, or things like when prices of something comes down. That's their way of also saying we were a part of this as well. But the Democrats are now taking the posture the orange man is bad and that anything he does is wrong. Something is wrong by virtue of the fact that Trump likes it. This is terrific for us. It's allowed us to pick all that low-hanging fruit, for us to be the party of we're in too many wars, NAFTA was a lie, the open border is a problem. All these easy things that Americans all agree on, it just gives us all that territory because they're just sitting there dour, sullen. One woman is purple hair. Who's the purple hair lady? That's quite a getup she's got. And they have nothing. All they could do is just scream like a petulant child into the wilderness the way Al Green was doing. So Trump is right about this. There's absolutely nothing he could say to make them stand or to make them have a good time. And that Trump has clarity on this is so powerful. And him bringing this to the public with tens of millions of people will have watched this speech and even more will have seen that clip. And for them to have to think about, for it to dawn on them, oh yeah, that's really what this is about. Trump could announce the curing of a disease, the saving of taxpayer dollars, peace around the world, and still the Democrats will find a way to not applaud it. And I'm going to give you some examples. So mark that down as a big thing, because I'm going to come back to this with a couple of crucial examples where it is appalling the Democrats did not stand and applaud. Those are coming up. Other top line things to note about the speech. Trump touted a lot of Doge's achievements. I'll play some of those. An epic list of fraud and abuse, which was hilarious to listen to. He talked about how America is going to tap our own rare earths. This is crucial. So this is something that we'd called for at Breitbart in 2017 when John Carney, our economic and finance editor, who you would have heard on the show yesterday, when he joined us in 2017, one of the first major pieces he did was he interviewed some top people in the rare earths mining sector and said America needs to focus on tapping our own rare earths here so we don't fall behind to China. And now, lo and behold, here we are. So Trump came out very tough on gangs, very tough on trans. Another one where the Democrats are backed into a corner where they will not rest until every female track and field event only has 3 men on the podium. If a woman ever podiums again in a track and field event around the world, Democrats will not be happy. So the Democrats, that they staked out that horrific position, that immoral position, it's so appalling. It's so unappealing. And Trump has kind of tricked them into doing it. And they simply will not applaud even basic things like later in the speech when Trump says that he's banning any federal funds to going to any schools that allow for men to play women's sports. He's a powerful anecdote. I don't have the clip of this, so I'll just describe it. Of this woman, Peyton McNabb, young woman, who got a brain trauma, a brain injury, because she was in a volleyball game with a tranny. The tranny was actually a male impersonating a female, who spiked the volleyball, hit her in the head so hard she had brain damage. And the Democrats did not applaud Trump acknowledging Peyton McNabb. So good, fine. Now we have clarity. They're completely backed in a corner. Trump announced some bold stuff. So we're going to have a golden dome, so like an iron dome. I think this is smart. Eventually, we will probably, like Zelensky says, have a war on our shores. It would be, I think, exceedingly unlikely. We're never attacked ever. And we certainly have to prepare for it. We prepare for the worst case scenarios. It's one of the things the government needs to do, is to prepare for the worst case scenarios. So it's not impossible. Let's put it that way. It's not impossible that could happen. We have a golden dome, a lot of gold themes in here. Trump likes gold anyway. The golden age of America starting. And so him talking about the golden dome is like an iron dome, but American style. He's promised a balanced budget. Now, it's not going to happen this year, I'll tell you that. But he wants to have a balanced budget. And if the Doge cuts are as big as we think they could be, and we could get that American economy revving up at a high rate, it's possible. He did not back down on tariffs. We spent a ton of time on tariffs on the show. We'll spend a ton of time on tariffs going forward, but did not give an inch there. He's going to end Biden's CHIPS Act, which is a big government-funded boondoggle that went to a lot of semiconductor research, but new semiconductor plants are going to be built in the United States. So we don't need a CHIPS Act. We need tariffs. That's why we don't need the CHIPS Act anymore. The CHIPS Act was going to be incredibly wasteful, government-funded thing for hundreds of billions by Biden to hand out to some of these companies to ostensibly do research, but all Trump had to do was threaten tariffs. He didn't have to put them in place. And semiconductor manufacturing, not just American companies, but Japanese companies and probably others, are going to start building manufacturing plants here so that they could build chips here and innovate here. A couple of amazing supporters of the show that you need to hear about. And one of them is Priority Gold. I was looking into what's going on with gold, as I often do, because I keep track of stuff, particularly on big news days. The price of gold is up today. The stock market is down big. The price of gold is up. The price of gold is up today. It's up over the last 30 days. It's up over the last 6 months. It's up over the last year. It's up over the last 5 years. And it is over the last 20 years, I think it's about, it's 565% up. So if you had bought gold 20 years ago, it's worth more than 5 times what it would have been then. So it's just one of these things where it is the sure bet. It's the sure bet of sure bets. And we have a terrific partner, which is Priority Gold. So I've teamed with them. It's very easy to, you text FREEDOM to 24999. They will give you a free wealth preservation guide. Your money is under attack, but one of the best ways to protect it is by diversifying with gold. You should have gold. And so why not have Priority Gold? Helps me, helps the show. PriorityGold.com. Text FREEDOM to 24999. Great people, great cause, and sort of the most unbelievable no-brainer you could have. Gold surged under Trump's last presidency, and there's no reason to think it won't happen again. Yes. Yeah. Let's see. What else? Another one. I don't think we have this clip as well. Another hugely embarrassing moment of the night for the Democrats were Marc Fogel, who was detained by Russians for, I think he had a half an ounce of medical marijuana that he had a prescription for in the United States. And he was sentenced to 14 years in prison. 14 years. So he was there for several years. I forget exactly how many years, but he was there for many years. I remember when Joe Biden did that prisoner swap where we traded the Merchant of Death for Brittany Griner, very strange WNBA player. I have an incredible section on this, if I say so myself, in Breaking Biden, where I detailed this horrific deal from Joe Biden. But he left Marc Fogel there, who was rotting in a cell because of half an ounce of prescription marijuana that he was entitled to have. But he was accused. It was Francis Martell, I think, wrote about this as he was inexplicably left there, meaning that any semi-competent president could have gotten out of this thing, and Biden couldn't do it. So, and in fact, Biden didn't even say for years that he was wrongfully detained. So, and Biden struck multiple prisoner swaps with Russia in 2022 and 2024. And Trump got him out right away. Immediately, Trump got him as a show of good faith from the Russians. And such a great dunk on Biden for that. I feel bad for Fogel, but just amazing. So Trump got him out. And when the Democrats applauded, the Democrats who love democracy, they hate Putin. They're stewards of democracy. And they love Zelensky because of his democratic tendencies. Wait a minute, he's a dictator, but still, they love democracy. Trump shouts out Marc Fogel, no applause, no standing from Democrats. When Trump is a clean bust on the Russians, even then, the Democrats will not show the love. So it just shows you how backed into a corner Trump had them. And it just made the night all the more glorious when you point out these moments like this. You would think that some of these, we could at least agree on some of these, right? Marc Fogel. I will give you just some more top line stuff before I get into some of the key moments. In terms of agenda, the Trump is freezing aid for foreign aid. People are going to have to justify foreign aid. We're out of the World Health Organization. We're out of the Paris Climate Accords. We're deregulating. He's bringing back that if you need a new regulation, then you got to take away 10. It's just a brilliant move because we're way overregulated. We have way too much laws on the book. So he wants to, if you want a new one, then you got to take one away. English is the official language, something that I should have commented on earlier. And it's one of these, shout out to my friend, Dr. Michael Savage, who's been making the point about language for as long as I've had a radio and been able to listen to the radio. So, of course, English should be the official language. It is our official language for its only woke reasons that we would not declare it so. Now, I have a family that I've got my kids in Spanish immersion class. I've got my wife speaks fluent Italian. She does a lot of her work in Spanish. I'm all for learning a lot of languages. My hero, Dennis Prager, I think speaks at least 5 languages fluently. I'm all for learning languages. Learning languages is great. It is not a xenophobic thing. It is about if you want to succeed in America, if you want to thrive in America, you need to be able to speak English. And you would never want to tell anyone who came here that you can get away with not speaking English. I will tell you, there are people in my life who are immigrants who don't speak the language very well, and it hurts their career, hurts their lives. They cannot make as much money because of it. So all Democrats care about is money, right? Other things that's going on. He wants to bring steel manufacturing back. Of course, he wants to enforce the border. He wants to have the death penalty for cop killers automatic. I love that. I don't think all murderers should live. A deep topic for a different show. But those of you who've been with me, you know that's my personal position. And I think that the fact of the matter is that if you kill cops, you should die. And if we know for a fact, if there's wiggle room, maybe not. But it seems like if you're killing cops, then we need to send a signal that if you kill cops, you die, because that will protect cops. That will protect law enforcement. That will make it so that they can do their jobs more easily. Trump announced that the mastermind of the Abbey Gate bombing is in custody, a massive moment. We're working on something. I'll give you a little behind the scenes here for the Alex Marlow Show audience. We're working on a big piece with the National Security Council's cooperation here. They've been forthcoming about some detail. The Trump White House is going absolutely bananas on terrorists around the world. And it's not gotten through yet. It's not gotten in the press. But the Abbey Gate bombing was part of this horrific Afghanistan withdrawal that took place under Biden, the worst moment of all the bad Biden moments, where over nearly 200 people died, 13 American servicemen and women died. And there was a bombing at Abbey Gate, part of Kabul. And this is where most of the fatalities took place. And the mastermind of the whole thing is now in custody and heading towards Trump right now. Mohammed Sharifullah. So he's expected to appear in a Virginia court now, 2001 attack. And he also trained other terrorists who did a terror attack in Moscow. So just one of the worst human beings on the planet. Another one. Trump announces this. An indisputably wonderful thing that's developing. This ISIS-K, you even want to throw the K on there because Democrats like to add the K. ISIS-K guy in custody who killed American service members. Democrats didn't applaud. Democrats didn't stand up. So whoever got that message to them and they all just stood with it. Totally wild. Totally wild. Trump is saying that we didn't just need a new president. We just didn't need legislation to fix the border. We need a new president. That was a great message. He touted how his rhetoric is basically a deterrent. He was really proud of the fact that we've had record recruiting numbers for our armed services, and we've had historic lows in terms of interactions at our border. So border crossings are down, military recruitment is up. Those are very big wins, very proactive. So many great moments last night, so many great moments. And I feel like we are heading towards it really could be a golden age if this holds up. So truly great stuff. All right, I want to check in on some really big moments that happened throughout the night, and I just want to share some of the most important ones. I'm going to start to get into some of these clips. Why don't I start with this one? I think this is very powerful. I think this really sets the tone, and why, if it looked like Trump had more of the eye of the tiger than usual, I really think this is it.
As fate would have it, Marc Fogel was born in a small rural town in Butler, Pennsylvania. Have you heard of it? Where his mother has lived for the past 78 years. I just happened to go there last July 13th for a rally.
So this is amazing. So I didn't know this, that Marc Fogel came from a lineage to Butler, Pennsylvania. this story arc from Trump, this is some of the best speech writing that I've heard. This is towards the end of the speech, but again, I'm trying to bias the way I'm organizing the broadcast today in terms of what I thought was most powerful. Mind-blowing stuff here. You're about to witness some epic storytelling.
That was not pleasant. And that is where I met his beautiful mom right before I walked onto that stage. And I told her I would not forget what she said about her son. And I never did I? Never forgot. Less than 10 minutes later, at that same rally, gunfire rang out, and a sick and deranged assassin unloaded 8 bullets from his sniper's perch into a crowd of many thousands of people. My life was saved by a fraction of an inch, but some were not so lucky. Corey Comperatore was a firefighter, a veteran, a Christian, a husband, a devoted father, and above all, a protector. When the sound of gunshots pierced the air, it was a horrible sound. Corey knew instantly what it was and what to do. He threw himself on top of his wife and daughters and shielded them from the bullets with his own body. Corey was hit really hard. You know the story from there. He sacrificed his life to save theirs. 2 others, very fine people, were also seriously hit. But thankfully, with the help of 2 great country doctors, we thought they were gone and they were saved. So those doctors had great talent. We're joined by Corey's wife, Helen, who was his high school sweetheart, and their 2 beloved daughters, Allison and Kaylee. Thank you.
Those of you who are just listening, you can, of course, see them in the audience. They're getting a nice applause, but not from Democrats. All the Democrats sitting. A couple are applauding. Most are sitting. They're all sitting. All the Republicans are standing. Should be a totally unifying moment.
Corey is looking down on his 3 beautiful ladies right now, and he is cheering you on. He loves you. He is cheering you on. Corey was taken from us much too soon, but his destiny was to leave us all with a shining example of the selfless devotion of a true American patriot. It was love like Corey's that built our country, and it's love like Corey's that is going to make our country more majestic than ever before. I believe that my life was saved that day in Butler for a very good reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. I believe that.
Oof, that's so good. I got chills. Absolutely fantastic stuff. I'll just give you a contrast. Like, this is how the Democrats, they're going up against that, and this is all they're bringing to the table. This is just before the speech with Jamie Raskin. Check this one out that Misty pulled for me.
And what would be your message to Trump voters who thought that he was going to lower prices, but so far have only gotten a trade war?
Well, all we've gotten is a trade war that is going to drive prices way up. They already, have completely failed us. They said that the prices would come down on day one. They talked about the price of eggs. The price of eggs has never been higher in American history than it is right now. But what about the price of eggs Benedict? All of their treason to democratic institutions. So I don't think people want to pay for the price of either eggs or eggs Benedict under Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
What?
You guys got it? Eggs Benedict, because Trump's like Benedict Arnold, because he's a traitor, because the egg prices aren't down yet, even though we're in the middle of a bird flu. So we got huge levels of avian flu. It's what's driving the egg prices up. But he's got Benedict jokes. So compare that joke with, here's Trump going through the list of some of the stuff that Doge has uncovered, which was, I was doubled over. Let's see if you will be too.
$40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million to...
Okay, come on. So that's ad-libbed, and it's so good because it's exactly what we're all thinking. He's got this nature to him. I was just talking to my friend Charlie Hurt, who's the Fox and Friends weekend host, about this exact thing, about how he has these asides that you can tell it's the first time he's ever had this idea, and he delivers them like he's a stand-up comic that's been working this material for a year. It's just, he's got that sort of time, and nobody knows what that is. Like, yeah, that's exactly what we're all thinking. But how many of us would actually say it with that perfect delivery if we had the moment? Not many of us, I'll tell you that.
$1 million to promote LGBTQI plus in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million. $8 million for making mice transgender.
So not only is it hilarious, but he has got the Democrats in a position where they're defending every last penny of that spending. I do not know where Lesotho is. Yesterday was the first time I'd ever heard of it. So I had to do some more research here. I don't know. Am I supposed to feel bad about that? Like I'm supposed to know the news. I was not aware there was a nation of Lesotho through all my years covering the news. Oh man, that is fantastic. That is fantastic. And the Democrats back all of that. They back all of that. So compare that humor to Jamie Raskin. He makes an Eggs Benedict joke. All right, back to serious stuff. This is the moment of the night, I think, for most people. This is DJ Daniel. DJ Daniel is a boy who has terminal cancer. He's, I think, 12 or 13 now. And he got honored by becoming an honorary member of the Secret Service. I assume everyone in the audience at this point is aware this moment happened. It was not a dry eye in the House, I don't think, unless your heart was made of stone. Or if you're a Democrat who did not stand and did not cheer for this young man. Let me play some of it. I don't think I have the whole exchange, but I'll play some of it.
DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
It's funny. I was on our Breitbart News Daily show this morning, and I said when I played this, I knew I was going to cry on my own show, and so it's happening. It's so beautiful. The hug. It's just real. This is real life. This is not politics. It's not a fantasy. This is trying to use this country to do the best for those of us who have the most struggle that they didn't deserve. DJ was diagnosed with cancer, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, and given 5 months to live, and he's still here. This is, and that hug with Sean Curran, who's our Secret Service director, it's a beautiful thing. Anyone who has had cancer affect their lives, which is all of us, and anyone who has young kids, which is many of us, I think it hits even harder, but I think any human being can see that as a beautiful moment. But the Democrats were outraged by it. They were actually outraged. I've got 2 examples for you. Let's get your blood boiling. But here she is, the richest woman to work one night a week in all of cable news. Here's Rachel Maddow.
For the record, and this is disgusting, the president made a spectacle out of praising a young man who thus far survived pediatric cancer, as if the president had something to do with that. This was in the midst of him praising Doge. The Doge cuts, among other things, have cut off funding for ongoing research into pediatric cancer.
Yeah, she doesn't understand the story. I do understand the story, and I'm going to explain to you how outrageous this is, but not until I play an even worse clip than calling it disgusting from Nicole Wallace, also on MSNBC.
That's literally what was off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So there's more to say along those lines.
People should know that. I mean, this was not 7,000 people doing this. This was what you sort of caught from your own reporting in the Trump administration. I mean, the facts are probably few and far between, but I think that's the point, right? Like those of us covering this, we come on the air to do our shows, and the point is there's so much. So let's just stick with DJ. I mean, I think that if there was a moment where you're...
But first of all, what is she talking about? Is she had a couple of Chardonnays before she did this? I know it's a late night on the East Coast, but just slurring her words, just not saying anything important. But I guess she does sound like she slurs during the middle of the day, though. So maybe that's not what's going on, but very odd.
The moment where your whole body could relax and you could celebrate someone. It was the 13-year-old cancer survivor who would like to be a police officer. Yeah. It was a genuinely beautiful moment, in the moment that probably was most familiar to the State of the Union addresses we were both a part of. Problem is, in the beauty of that child is the tragedy of the Trump presidency. Because we don't know how he survived pediatric cancer, but it is likely he benefited from some sort of cancer research. And it is a fact that Trump has slashed cancer research. It's a fact. By eliminating NIH and by all the cuts, pediatric cancer trials are halted. And God willing, he won't need any more treatment. But if he does, I hope that NIH wasn't responsible for anything that let him live this long. He also talked about wanting anyone who murdered a cop to receive the death penalty. But Donald Trump's first action was to pardon all of the January 6th insurrectionists who assaulted and violently beat cops.
Who were convicted of it.
Correct. So I think there's a shallowness, and I think that I know you, and I know you probably could have gone on for another 30 minutes with the fact check, and it's vital, and we have to do it. But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ, and I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who care.
All right. So that was it. Was it worth it? I know I made you guys sit through a lot of that, but he hopes DJ Daniel doesn't kill himself because of suicide, because when he was a cop, he had to defend the Capitol from Donald Trump and his supporters. Do they think that's a good look? They don't even know DJ Daniel's story, which I immediately went down a rabbit hole where Rachel Maddow says this is disgusting. Oh, Missy, can you help me find, is there any evidence that Rachel Maddow called it disgusting? The other 870 times DJ was sworn into other police departments? You heard that right. DJ set a goal of getting sworn into 100 police departments when he was initially given 5 months to live. He's done it 870 times all over the world, including in Italy. So he gets sworn into the U.S. Secret Service. This was not original Donald Trump ideas. Trump did the stagecraft that was brilliant. He had us all misty, any of us with a heart, but they didn't even have the basics on this story. So DJ Daniel's been doing this for years. And his dream of becoming a police officer, this has been a rallying cry for our law enforcement that has not had a lot of breaks lately. Due to the Democrat policies, the Ferguson effect, it's very hard to recruit. The trumped up police brutality stuff led by places like the Washington Post and the establishment media, who have led the charge to try to portray cops as racist and ultra-violent and not actually the thin blue line between chaos and safety in our streets. That's how we've talked about cops. They've had this opportunity, DJ Daniel, who is their biggest champion, to do something nice for him as he does something nice to promote them in return. It's such a happy American story, and it's become an international story as he's doing this overseas also. 870 other police departments. But they didn't know that. You think Maddow knew that? No, it was disgusting that Trump did the same thing. I want to hear from any of you if you're, I'm sure there's someone in the audience who's in one of these 870 police departments. If you had a specific reaction, please email me, aloha@alexmarlow.com. But it does show you how lost they are. This is all they have. They just have anger, hatred. I'll talk to Mrs. Dr. Marlow about if there are really any interruptions in cancer research that are a big threat. But look, a lot of the research that needs to be done, it doesn't all have to come from a blanket government grant with no accountability. A lot of the issues is accountability. Our private sector is deeply incentivized to solving cancer, coming up with new drugs. You don't need a ton of government R&D on this stuff. It's not standard for it just to be the government funds all this. Sure, there are government grants, but it's the NIH. I mean, there are universities. There's so many funds. There's so much charity that's done in terms of research. We donate to cancer researchers every year on a personal level. It's a great place to do donations, tax deductible. I mean, it's very easy to do. Why does the government have to be responsible for all of it and to act like you like cancer if you don't like the government funding it without any accountability whatsoever? Especially when the cost of funding some of this research is also that you fund all this nonsense, like the stuff in the African nations we hadn't even heard of before. All right, here's another amazing moment that did not get Democrats applauding or standing up. Check this one out.
We're joined tonight by a young man, Jason Hartley, who knows the weight of that call of duty. Jason's father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all wore the uniform. Jason tragically lost his dad, who was also a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy when he was just a boy, and now he wants to carry on the family legacy of service. Jason is a senior in high school, a 6-letter varsity athlete, a really good athlete, they say, a brilliant student with a 4.46, that's good, GPA. And his greatest dream is to attend the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. And Jason, that's a very big deal getting in. That's a hard one to get into. But I'm pleased to inform you that your application has been accepted. You will soon be joining the Corps of Cadets.
DJ comes over, give him a high five. That's so cool. That's so cool. .4, that's a monster GPA. That's a big one. That's a lot. That's a lot of A's, a lot of A pluses too, a lot of AP classes probably. So he lost his dad. He wants to be in the military academy. Gets in. Trump announces it. Now the Democrats are seething at this. They think it's just all politics, all campaigning. But it's also something where it's making it cool to want to serve your country, to serve this country. And if you're a smart person, to go and serve our country and not just to make it so that only the working class people who are from parts of our country that are just naturally all right-wing people and they have to have this sort of heritage that where this is instilled in you, try to make it cool to anyone who's just watching this casually at home. It's unfair for us to only rely on America's working class in the South in particular to staff our military. That is, this should be welcomed by everyone. You make it an appealing thing to have a bright young star who lost his dad, to honor him in this way. It just makes it feel like I want to enlist. And hopefully some young people feel that way who are smart and capable so we can have the best fighting forces in the world. This is why Trump is so proud of the recruiting effort that's taking place. So all good stuff, all good stuff. This is all met with such cynicism from the establishment media. Here's fake news Jake Tapper. Check this out.
President Trump wrapping up his first address to Congress since returning to power. In moments, we're going to hear the Democratic response from Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan. But it was, in some ways, a campaign speech almost.
There you go. So the first thing out of his mouth is campaign speech.
That normally stated.
It is a State of the Union address. The elections have consequences, Jake. Why don't you win next time? Jake's wife was a Planned Parenthood activist, by the way. So if you want to know where his politics are, you get to tout the stuff that you're doing once a year as part of the award for winning the election, as part of the incentive. So he wasn't campaigning for anything. It's a pretty absurd comment. He's trying to set his agenda as not just what his priorities are, but why make it cool, to make it cool. Here's some other things that took place during the speech that I want to highlight. This is with regards to Greenland.
And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security. And we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security. And I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it. We will keep you safe.
Yeah, so he's saying we could invade, but we need it. We need it. He's making it light, but we need Greenland because China's encroaching on the Arctic. And Denmark is just not. It should not be. Greenland's closer to, I think, New York than it is to Denmark. I think people are pointing that out. So Denmark should not be entitled to it, and they're not going to do as much with it as we could, and we can help keep the world safe. International security. That's why I said that. It's not just national security, it's international security. There's resources we could get, which of course Trump wants, but it's also a lot of it is that he thinks it's probably very disturbing that China is moving in the Arctic. And again, all roads lead back to China. All right, Zelensky came up. Let's talk about this.
Earlier today, I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you. I appreciate that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago. Simultaneously, we've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful?
All right, so we're heading towards peace, and he's making progress here in that regard. Also, a good stuff, and not a campaign speech, just saying that we're trying to bring the world and make it more peaceful. Now I will play something that is something I did not observe before, but I think is really important. That this speech was kind of mean, and it was kind of partisan. And it's partisan in the sense that now Republican ideas are just smart ideas, and Democrats are clinging to all these horrible ideas that Trump's been identifying. But you have to say it was super awesome, but also highly aggressive when Trump gave the following line during this State of the Union address. Check this out.
I'm also working tirelessly to end the savage conflict in Ukraine. Millions of Ukrainians and Russians have been needlessly killed or wounded in this horrific and brutal conflict with no end in sight. The United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense with no security, with no anything. Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes.
That's so great. He calls Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas in the middle of the State of the Union. Look, she deserves it. I mean, these people all deserve it. They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to kill him. So many things they tried to do to this man to try to make it so that he couldn't be president again. He couldn't live freely. And now they're just blocking every single part of his agenda. There's not one thing they could be agreeable on because they hate him so much on a personal level. So I don't care that he calls her Pocahontas. I laughed. I liked it. But it's still unbelievable that he calls her Pocahontas from the podium there. All right, it's great stuff, and the Democrats have nothing in return. The Alyssa Slotkin gave the Democrats response is incredibly lame. She had some terrible ideas. I'm going to save those for tomorrow's show. I love doing these, so I don't want to overwhelm the audience with speech analysis. So we'll do that tomorrow. But it was not good. It was very lame. It did not help her cause. So the last word, though, I will give for Trump's inaugural State of the Union for his second term. I will play his number one foe in the Congress. This is your friend and mine, Jasmine Crockett.
Oh no! It's a cultural divide. I'm gonna get it on the floor. You really about to do it? 40 acres in the mule. This is bigger than the music. You really about to do it? Yeah, they tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence. Think it on it like that. Hey, I'm tripping, I'm sliding, I'm riding through the back like buck. Must have on a deep bro, any rap. He a freak though, man down. Call like Ember Lambs, tell him breathe. Let them boys to the cross, they walk around like tees. What's up with these?
Just remember that we've got democracy under attack. Mia Farrow was putting out on Blue Sky that she doesn't think democracy is going to make it to Labor Day. I mean, she thinks that by this summer, we're done with democracy. And the bad orange man's in the White House. We could be on the brink of nuclear war. People are all going to go bankrupt because of the egg prices. And we got Jasmine Crockett. Those of you who could not see this because you're listening, which I always appreciate. I'm a listener to the show. I'm not a watcher of it. But she's doing a TikTok dance. Was that Kendrick Lamar, Misty? You gotta let me know, because I think that song was pretty good. It's definitely a bop. But it's a good song. But she's doing an edited TikTok dance. So that's how the Democrats are fighting back against Trump's theatrics with the honorary Secret Service member, DJ Daniel, with his list of all the cuts Doge is making. He's bringing the Abbey Gate terrorist to face justice. He's going to buy Greenland. He's going to get peace in Ukraine. All this stuff. Going to crack down on the border. Calling him war and Pocahontas. And the Democrats, that's all they got in response. It's great. It's a glorious day. It's one of the best days of the year. And I just hope all of you feel as confident as I do about things going forward. I'm sure I'll have more thoughts throughout the week, but I think it's a pretty good table setter for where we're at. And I hope all of you enjoyed watching. If you watched with Breitbart and you shared our content, I appreciate it. We're just absolutely dominant in these types of days at Breitbart on socials. So really, really good. Really appreciate you, all of you who are involved. All right. A few news items I'll just throw out there because it's important that you get a little more balance in the show. China says if U.S. wants a war, we're ready to fight till the end. That's a trade war. So, but they're not talking about a war, but note that China at least says in their state media they're going to be digging in. The United States has ended intelligence sharing with Ukraine, so they've banned allies from passing on American origins observations. So Trump is just trying to get them to end the war. So he wants Ukraine to sign that mineral deal and end the war. So this is something that he's saying it's over, your time is up, and I think this is directly related to that botched Oval Office meeting with Zelensky and Trump and Vance that we obsessed on at the end of last week. So I think that's what that's about. That the Trump is fed up, and so you no longer, if you're going to try to win the war, you're not going to be doing it with our help. In L.A., Nicole Shanahan, who was the heiress to I think a couple of tech fortunes, did she have two tech husbands? I know Sergey Brin was her husband, but she was Robert Kennedy's running mate. She financed his campaign also, then was his running mate for president. She's now funding a recall effort against Karen Bass in L.A. These things are very hard to do, and as a Los Angelino, you got to get a lot of signatures. You can buy signatures out here, though. If you have enough grassroots organization, you can do it. But it is one of these things where it's really hard. We've done recalls in the past, and they rarely work. Usually you're better off just voting people out. She's up for re-election next year, so we're not going to have Karen Bass for too much longer. Still, I like giving people a hard time who are the bad guys, and Bass is absolutely one of the bad guys. All right, so the best entertainment of the year is going to be a Donald Trump State of the Union, but it only comes up once a year. So what do you do the rest of the nights of the year? Well, you don't want to have that destructive content coming out of Hollywood. That's why I joined the Angel Guild community. I wanted entertainment that inspires and uplifts and doesn't drag me down. And with Angel Guild, you get that. Plus, you can vote on upcoming films and support the movies that reflect the values that I align with. Plus, you can get early access to inspiring content. I no longer have to have all the Hollywood schlock every night. You've got an alternative with Angel Studios. Angel Studios is leading the charge. High quality, faith-filled films like The Sound of Freedom, Cabrini, and Homestead. These movies are powerful, impactful, and they're a must-see if you haven't already seen them. So if you want to make a real difference, where we put our dollar shapes the future of entertainment. Let's support the content that amplifies light and protects our children from harmful influences. So please join me in making a difference today. Go to angel.com/Marlow. That's angel.com/Marlow to join the Angel Guild now. So here's another one. Bad news from this morning. Supreme Court says the Trump administration must pay $2 billion in USAID funds, with Barrett and Roberts siding with the liberals on the court. Just absolute insanity here. I don't understand why we feel like we're obliged to pay NGOs billions of taxpayer dollars. This is not reasonable. It's not something that I think is in our Constitution at all. And I'm not sure where the jurisdiction comes from, where the Supreme Court feels like one of these lower courts is allowed to demand that the Trump administration pay all this money we don't have. We don't even have the money. We're in mass amounts of debt, and we're saying we're legally obliged to do that. Shocking stuff, and Barrett continues to disappoint. Roberts is always disappointed. So it's sad. So it just enables the lawfare. It encourages all the lawfareistas to continue to harass Trump and to try to shut down his agenda. It's just a fact, and it's a sad fact. And there's so many examples now of Barrett just siding with the liberal women on the court. Really upsetting, and we have to mark it down so we don't make these mistakes in the future. All right, that will be today's show. We still have a lot going. I have not gotten to Slotkin's response, which I will break down tomorrow. We got rapid news coming in on trade, other things on the economy that I want to touch on. But yeah, that's good. That's good for now. Thanks to all of you, particularly if you're new in the audience. I noticed a big uptick in subscribers after I hosted for Charlie Kirk yesterday, so thanks a lot for that. All of you, check out our sponsors. It does do a lot to help support the show and our growth. Thanks to producer Misty and all of you in the Breitbart audience. Talk to you tomorrow.